Hi, it's Jessie and I'm back again. Let's take this from another direction. If you know me, you'll know better. I see things differently than other people do. I process information differently than other people do. My life has never been easy. I had one snake in the beginning, and the whole world was against me. So I leave this place, and I find another snake who's against me, and the whole world's against me. And I leave this place, and the snakes, they all gather together, and they come at me, right? And I sometimes feel overwhelmed by the snakes, right? But when I step back and I look at the bigger picture, I get some understanding. I get some clarity, right? When I open my Bible, I find the purpose in the presence of these snakes in my life, right? Just in the first book of the Bible, Genesis, right? We find Adam and Eve in the garden, and they're tempted and tested and torn down by a snake, really, right? Because the snake comes to Eve and he plays with her. He says, eat this apple, right? And she says, God said no. And the snake goes automatically to undermine and make her question, was it really what God said, like, did he really say, surely you won't die, there'll be no consequence. And this is why the world loves snakes, because the snakes kind of clear away the consequence for you. They're transactional, so they prey on people who maybe have some issues in their life, and they tell them that don't worry, it's okay. I would have did the same thing. They tell them, don't worry, that guy is garbage. He deserved it. They justify wrongdoing and make you feel like you're okay with it. They take away all the consequences, right? It's not that they take away the consequence, right? They just make you feel like you don't have to be guilty or ashamed, you know? They make you feel like you're justified, you know? And this is the hardest thing about the snake, because the snake will not only make you feel justified for something that has happened in your life, but the snake will also make you feel justified in doing something, like he'll provoke you against somebody. You see the snake as good because he made you feel good. He made you at peace with whatever was wrong in your life, whatever was holding you back in your life. He removed the limit from you. He took your guilt and he took your shame away, and he said, don't worry about the consequence of it, right? You're at peace with it. The snake did this for you, right? But now the snake wants you to go out and hurt somebody. Now the snake wants you to go after somebody. And the snake is preying on your sense of justice over there. And you think you know the nature of the snake, that he's so forgiving, that he's so loving, that he makes things okay. So now you want to serve the snake, and you want to give the snake power, and you think that you're justified in doing whatever the snake tells you to do because that other person deserved it. Remember, you heard that they deserved it earlier when you knew that you had done something wrong, and the snake told you, don't worry about it because they deserved it. So the snake not only changes the standards that God puts on your lives. Don't eat from that tree. That's your only rule that you got there. Don't eat from the tree. He not only takes away these standards, but he establishes new standards. Now you don't have to go within the laws, but now you can do whatever you want because somebody deserves it. And it's not that you're going to give the person a trial. It's not that you're even going to confront the person for what you're about to kill them for. It's you're going to hit them because they deserved it. This creates a world where people hide their faces in shame because they don't want it brought to trial, where they have attacked someone without cause, where they have hurt someone unnecessarily, where they have served the snake, because now they got some guilt and they don't want people to find them out. So now they hide their faces in shame, where the Bible tells you he was the one who the people hid his face from, because it's real easy to recognize the standard of a snake. He always uses the same tactics to both get people on his side and to get them to work against whoever the snake is targeting. And if the snake is targeting someone, it was because the snake couldn't beat them on his own. He couldn't trick them. He couldn't trap them into being used. And the snake can't have disorder in his kingdom, remember? A house divided can't stand. The same rules apply, and the snake knows this, which is why anybody who opposes the snake has to die. Anyone who does not serve the snake has to die. It's a very cruel world when we operate like this, right? And I know, what's her name? The girl who's running for president right now, Haley, right? I know that she's commented on the lawlessness of people, but has she taken a look at the lawlessness of leadership? Because we're all justifying wrongdoing with the same kind of vocabulary. They deserve it. They don't deserve it. It's not about the law. It's not about truth. It's not about justice. It's about giving people what they deserve or don't deserve. And the standard which is applied is someone's opinion. There's a standard in Torah that says God takes from one and gives to another. So they operate with the standard of we rob the people so that we can have more. We operate with this standard of we don't give directly from the government to the people. We've erased entitlements in such a way. And we also attack anybody on entitlements. And it wasn't just me that they attacked and tried to make me look like a criminal, tried to make me look like I was undeserving of life. It's other people too. I've heard news stories where people have been given free tickets to a baseball game and then have had their benefits stripped away because this is income that wasn't declared. Someone was given free tickets. This is income that wasn't declared. So we strip away the benefits. You see, we have these strange standards to say, who is deserving and who is not. And it is completely lawless. And when you have this place where our leaders are operating from lawless standards, of course you're going to have people operating from lawless standards. When we say there was an insurrection, this is illegal. They were attempting to overthrow the government. We have to recognize that Congress has been robbing the people for generations, right? We have to recognize that there have been laws passed, particularly surrounding surveillance and whatnot, where particularly the shadow justice system that's gone up underneath everybody's nose, and nobody challenges it because they use trusted professionals. Nobody sees what's going on over here. They sweep it under the rug real nice. Everybody who they uses such kindness and such friendly faces. They use beautiful people. They use people who seem of integrity, who seem as though they would never do anything against anyone else. But then you get this standard in here, and you make this their job, and then they can't even do the job that they originally enlisted to do, like teachers and doctors and nurses. They're not even, this is not their primary focus of their employment anymore. Now it's, let's enact this shadow justice system, and it's completely wrong, but the standards that they're operating under, in the beginning with Adam and Eve, they only had one snake, and they didn't have to deal with the armies of the snake. They didn't have to deal with the whole world. They didn't have to deal with all this, right? And so I'm like, Adam and Eve, you couldn't handle one little snake, and a lot of people say they should have killed the snake, right? But wait a minute, because the purpose of the snake, the reason why the snake would have been found in the garden where, creation was perfect, everything was good. The reason why the snake was to be found in the garden is because it aerates the soil. It pokes hole in the soil so the nutrients can get down to the roots so that the plant can produce better fruit. If there was no air irrigation. If there was no air being poked through the soil, maybe the tree doesn't get its nutrients and it dies. See, but the snake, it didn't stay underground. It came up and then it started poking holes in what God had said to Adam and Eve. And Adam, his job was to subdue everything, right? Eve's job was to be the helper. So Adam failed in his job because he didn't recognize that, hey, snake, you're operating outside of your purpose. You're not to poke holes in the people. You're to poke holes in the dirt, you know? So I lack sympathy and compassion for Adam and Eve in this one way. But in this other way, I have sympathy and compassion for them because when they came up with the snake, they had no idea what they were getting into, you know. They had never seen a snake before. They had never been bit like this, right? So I got some degree of sympathy for them. And then God, he didn't kill any of them. He put them out there. Why? Why put them out there when you know that we're just going to suffer under the rule of the snake who's twisting up everything so that we can't see anything and we're enslaved and doing everything he says and he's robbing us blind. You know, he's ruling over us. Why would you be so cruel, God? Why? Because in the beginning, Adam and Eve, they allowed the snake to put his yoke on them. God gave them one rule, and they chose that the snake's order was better, and they received a yoke, whether they were aware of it or unaware of it. But you cannot be in the presence of God with the yoke of the serpent upon you. You know, God created everything for a purpose. It was good. You know, when we come up and we operate outside of our purpose, we bring complete devastation into the world. There is no more Garden of Eden. So those of you who think it's okay to be a teacher and operate in the shadow justice system, to be a nurse and operate in the shadow justice system, to be a doctor and operate in the shadow justice system, let me take you back to the garden and where God kicked them out and the world was darkness. The first thing that happened when they got out, they had kids, right? Their children were killing each other, right? Cain killed Abel. The world was not at peace. The world was complete, total, utter chaos. So when we're going to deal with lawlessness over here, we need to understand that it's not just this down here. It's not the people running the insurrection. It's the one who's putting the yoke on you. And when God kicks you out, it's because in your suffering, the purpose of suffering, I know my covenant is to suffer for God, right? There's purpose in suffering, because through suffering, you're going to cast off the yoke. You're going to say, no, I don't want this. You're going to fall down on your knees. You're going to pray. You're going to ask God, take this burden from me, God. I didn't mean any of it. I'm sorry. I'm sorry I listened to him. I was wrong. You know, I don't need to kill him. I don't need to point fingers. Yeah, the devil made me do a lot of things, God, but I don't need to kill him. I understand. When you created him in purpose, it was good because he was supposed to poke holes in the dirt. I missed my shot. I didn't understand my own purpose, that I was here to subdue that creature and tell him to put his head back in the dirt. I messed up, God. It wasn't his fault. He was doing what he was created to do, poke holes in things. But Eve couldn't recognize it because she was just a helper. I was the one who was supposed to subdue it. I accepted from her hand because she is my helper. But I should have stuck with your law. You know, I should have stuck with you. I should have checked with you. I should have verified before I stepped out from under the protection of your law. I should have verified. I messed up. I'm not pointing any fingers. And in this way, Adam could have reconciled all of creation back to God. But it never occurred to Adam because Adam had not been through it enough. Adam had not gone through enough to see, you know, how do you reconcile the world back to God, you know? Confronting the serpent, let me just tell you this part. It's not easy. It's not easy because if you confront the serpent, my daughter's kindergarten teacher, my daughter could read and write before she went to kindergarten, right? So she knew how to write her name with a capital A and the rest in lowercase. But she comes home one day and she's writing everything in capital letters. And I'm like, Lonnie, why are you writing everything in capital letters, baby? You know better. Your teacher doesn't want work like this. I substitute teach, so I know standards, right? We only write in caps until we learn that there's, positioning of where capital letters are appropriate, Once we learn this positioning, we don't do it anymore. And she says, no, well, Miss Greenwald said to write it like this. This is how Miss Greenwald wants it. So I sent Miss Greenwald a note. Miss Greenwald, why are you gaslighting my daughter? Because I know that's what she's doing, right? I know that's what she's doing. You're telling a kid who knows how to write her name proper, how to write her name improper. And from my other kids, I learned that they work appearances to craft a narrative to make my kids look worse than they are, right? To make my kids look like something other than they are. So I call her out. Why are you gaslighting my daughter? She sends me a note back. Oh, we don't do these kind of things. Next morning, I go outside. My porch is vandalized. I have things broken. My kids, I always had bubbles on the porch and chalk for them to play outside with, My bubbles, these big $20 bottles of bubbles, because I got the good stuff, spilled out, bottles thrown through the yard, chalk smashed to pieces. They vandalized my porch because I told her, don't gaslight my daughter. This was a note between she and I, and her message back to me was, you keep your mouth shut or we'll kill you. We'll do worse. We'll start destroying your life by tearing apart everything around you, starting with your porch. So you don't confront the devil. The devil will kill you. He will retaliate. This is how you find the real monsters in the world, is that they retaliate. And when they came and accused me, I pointed out, where do you see that I retaliated against anyone? You don't. But I do see where you retaliated against me when you vandalized my porch when I told Miss Greenwald, stop gaslighting my daughter. So we don't think we're going to solve anything by confronting the devil. It just won't work. We can't fix the snake. The snake is doing what he was meant to do, and he's going to have rage with you. He's going to be wrathful towards you if you try to tell him that he's wrong, because correction is not in his vocabulary. He needs redirection. Get back in the dirt. This is not what you were created for. That's what you're created for. You up here is wrong. You're causing a lot of problems that don't need to be caused. Get your little snaky tail back in the dirt. He doesn't need correction and confrontation. He needs redirection. Get back in the dirt. But how do you reconcile things? Not by fighting the snake. It's not going to solve anything. Because the devil, he's got an army. It's not just Miss Greenwald that I was facing. It was a whole army. It was a whole seven-headed beast. Do you understand? And this seven-headed beast doesn't play fair. This seven-headed beast tells lies and stories. This seven-headed beast has no filter. It will break your child's arms, It will break bones, and then it will tell everyone that you did it. This beast has no filter, no standards. There's no limit to the lows he will stoop. You do not confront this beast. You take up your peace with God and say, no, I understand where I went wrong. I understand. And this is not a confession for me to say to God. This is a confession for everyone who's gotten bitten by the snake and used by the snake to say to God. Because me, I kept on in my life. We had that little tiff with Miss Greenwald. I didn't go back and try to make more war with her. I said, you know what? I can't do anything about this woman. This woman is beyond correction. The police aren't going to fix it. I complained to the superintendent of schools. He's not going to do anything. The principal isn't going to do anything. And they're not going to do anything because they're one big team. You do realize this. So here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to try and preserve what is good in my house. I'm going to try to combat the things that they're doing the best that I can to limit the damage that they can do to my children while I'm pinned down here. And if you say, well, why don't I just leave? They have made it so I have no place to go. If I leave, We start out with a whole new pool of witnesses, a whole new pool of army who have the freshness, who have a clean record, who can say that they're trusted professionals. And I have nothing to say against what they have done to show that, hey, I go someplace else and it's just me that's the problem, and they keep working this thing. Because it's not just one man's agenda back here. Do you understand? It is that they were part of a shadow justice system. And my thing is, I'm not trying to kill you, Miss Greenwald. I'm trying to shine a light over here to show you that, it doesn't work for anybody. It doesn't work for anybody. We have to shine a light, because in this country we have this thing called a Constitution, and the accused has rights. Before the accused becomes the accused, the person has rights. And you don't have a right to go after somebody like this. You don't have a right to target someone's children. You don't have a right to gaslight and groom someone's kid into being someone that they're not. You don't have a right to point fingers to say, your mama's really the problem. It's not us. We wouldn't do something like that. You liar. Stop it. This system, you're not my enemy. You're not big enough to be my enemy. God don't care about you. That's why you're doing what you do. But if you want God to care about you, step into the light and do the right thing. You want God to care about you? Turn away from these ways, condemn these ways. Refuse to operate these ways. Get behind me and no one will touch you. Get behind me and you will find mercy. Stay where you are and you'll die with the devil, Get behind me and you find mercy. What happened was wrong. They played. They are manipulative. I told you about this little Milgram experiment the other day, how there are very, very few people who would not push the button to shock someone else once it was a person of authority. It was part of the test. It was necessary for the success of the test. And the person had been accused of doing something heinous. There was very few people who could resist. It is basic human nature. And even if it's wrong, you cannot be killed for basic human nature, because it's the way that God created you. However, this devil that poked holes in you to help you grow, to produce good fruit, he has given you this opportunity to be a person of integrity, to be a person that can be trusted, to be a person that raises a standard where the devil can't get to people anymore. Because he got to you, he's going to get to everybody else unless you decide that it was wrong. That nobody should be put in this position. They lied to you. They made you target a little 5-year-old kid, an innocent 5-year-old child. They made you destroy a child. That's murder. If you renounce them, if you say this is the standard, it is wrong. We ain't killing nobody. We're changing the standards. We're not doing this anymore. On my covenant, I suffer for God, right? Purpose in suffering. 1, we count on God as sovereign, right? 2, we cast the yoke off of us, right? 3, we bring redemption to the world, right? Because we're not fighting anybody anymore. We're deciding to lay things down. We can't fix what Adam and Eve did in the garden. None of us have a time machine, right? None of us could even get into the garden if we had a time machine, right? So let's not go back that way, but let's choose to refuse to be used by the devil, and let's choose to establish a new standard that says no, because we want to create a better world. When you do this stuff, when you break someone, they're going to go out and break someone else. They're going to hurt someone else. And yeah, right now they're only taking swings at me, but eventually they're going to be grown-ups outside of my home, and it's going to be someone else that they may hurt. You know, it's not right, it's not fair, it's not just. You know, if we operate in these lawless standards, then you have no right to complain when there's an insurrection, when there's lawlessness out there. Because if there's lawlessness here, you're setting a standard. You're not just enslaving a people. The people will cast your yoke off and say no and storm the Capitol, right? You're not just enslaving a people down here. We're not willing to be slaves. We're too entitled for that nonsense. Try that stuff on another continent where the people are more subdued. Here, we cast your yoke off and we come a running, you know? But I'm not saying we need to do that. I don't support insurrection. I'm saying if we change the standard, we eliminate the place where the devil can operate from. We eliminate the places where lawlessness can operate from. We set better standards up here. We get better fruit down here. We get better results in our people down here. You know, one thing I couldn't help but think while I was looking at this, while you were exploiting children to come and take shots at my kids, to take shots at me, I couldn't help but think, like, how many sociopaths are being created right now? You're giving people permission to do something bad. That's like you're puffing them up with entitlement. You're the one putting it in. But over here, we had this question. Are sociopaths born or made? Was it nature or nurture that made them so bad? And right here, you're winning the argument for nurture. And if you complain about these sociopaths, right? You complain about Donald Trump being the problem in the world. But then you don't think that you had any hand in producing that, as you were puffing people up with entitlement and encouraging them to act outside of the law to hurt somebody who was never going to be able to complain about things, you know, who was never going to see justice in the things that you were doing to them, that you were going to break them in ways, you were going to do permanent damage to them so that they could never feel whole again, you know? It's wrong. Can't do anything about what was done wrong. Let's walk it out as right. Okay? Let's walk it out as right. Let's set better standards. Nikki Haley, don't just complain about lawlessness. If we're going to address lawlessness, we got to address it at the head. If you don't address it at the head, taking the fruit out ain't going to do you no good. This is the fruit, you know, where they stormed the Capitol. This is the fruit that the head created. It's bad fruit. It's bad that you tried to you tried to groom people, mold people, and shape people. And I get that you saw that you were doing wrong, you know, because I worked in education. I know where the teachers were allowed to use sarcasm in the past as a way to subdue people, as a way to gain favor with the kids, as a way to relate and connect, you know. Later on, they saw that this was producing, you know, a lack of empathy in people. It was not bringing about the right things in the kids. So we changed it, and now we're not allowed to use sarcasm. We're not allowed to use this humor in the practice of educating children, you know. So you made course corrections before, but making a course correction like the use of sarcasm, to or not to be, you know, it's not going to produce the drastic kind of results that you need. You want to produce drastic results, you got to change this where you fight people through people. Well, not even fight people through the children at their children to get to them. That's just too much nonsense. Knock it off. It's ridiculous, right? We can do better, as Nikki Haley said. We can do better, America. You know? For those of you who don't know, my grandfather, my great-great-great-grandfather, he's noted in George Washington's letters that they keep online, if you read them, you know. His last name was West. He built this country. He fought for this country. He died for this country. And every grandfather I had after him fought for this country. Every single war. All the way down to my dad who fought in Korea. It is in my bloods to fight for my nation. I'm not picking up my weapon and going to war. I'm picking up my testimony and I'm coming to you and I'm telling you this is not the America that my ancestors built. This is not the America that they designed, that George Washington, Benjamin Franklin, Sam Adams, it's not, we can do better, America, we can do better, and I'm going to have to insist that we do better. And Joe Biden, when you say, join me or I'll join you, this is the kind of better that I'm aiming for. If you want help in correcting it and fixing it, I will help you. But if you want me to stay silent, I cannot. I never killed the snake before, right? I'm not allowed to kill my snakes. But I can tell you, the snake don't get to set the standard. The standard is what I'm after. That is my main objective. If you can handle that, we can work together. That's all I have to say for today. I'm out of time. It's going to shut off on me. So have a good day and God bless.